We said these days were coming. We notified you when they were here. Anybody who's followed this channel for any length of time understands that we're talking about the amount of energy coming in from the solar system. And for 5 years, people were saying drought, 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 and we were saying heat. It's heat. It's not drought, it's heat. Heat creates drought. And the reason we focused on Australia is because Australia gives us a heads up as to what the Northern Hemisphere might be able to expect when it's their time to have a summer. And what happened in Australia, heat. Somewhere along the line, everything started getting reported as shade temperatures. So when you hear that it's 111, you have to always tell yourself that's in the shade. And koalas, they'll tell you what's going on, because when they become overheated by the sun, they get lower and lower in the trees where it's not safe, on the ground even, because that's where your most shade is. Koalas were reported to actually approaching complete strangers looking to take a drink out of their water bottles. And the death and the carnage is amazing. And what troubles me is when somebody who lives at a northern latitude says, well, I look out the window, I don't see anything, nothing going on. Yeah, right, you know, casting doubt while the carnage is happening right under their noses is disappointing. It's disappointing because, one, either there really are people that are that uninformed in the world, or there really are people that are that evil in the world. And so whatever their explanation for being blatantly ignorant on what's happening all around every continent, then there's no hope, or there's very little hope that we can keep the world educated. But normally our long-range predictions or our theories usually run about 3 years ahead of what the experts reveal. And when you look at other primates, what happens when food gets scarce, other primates turn on each other, and it's vicious. It really is. Chimpanzees do this, and other primates have, when stressed beyond comprehension for starvation or water, it's every man for himself. And we see things that we're seeing things for the last 10 years that we've never seen before, all pertaining to heat and sometimes pertaining to temperature extremes and cold. Their summer, occurring in January, February, is more intense than the northern hemisphere. And there are many cases where completely wild animals were so desperate that anybody with a water bottle was approached by a wild animal. To keep their animals from dying in the zoo, water was recirculated and sprayed over and over again upon these animals. And birds, they can flap their wings, keep themselves a little cool when you wet them down. But it's a very, very difficult time. And the thing is, I mean, even like reptiles supposedly love the heat, but they have their limits too. And it becomes extremely important that we understand the solar radiation is a huge and present danger to your health. And people don't understand that some forms of radiation, the damage is not seen for 2 or 3 years later. So you have to protect yourself from the sun. And what's happening too with the heat is there's more evaporation. More evaporation means more clouds, and when the conditions are right, that water has to come back down. So drought, and we pointed this out, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, drought was always being replaced by floods. And the word extremes is the most fitting I could think of. And these huge Arctic vortexes grabbing cold air from as far north as the North Pole, where the coldest air resides, and in a very quick and timely fashion, within days, take that air and deposit it way, way further south than it's ever been deposited before. And then when those vortexes move on, back comes the sun. And sometimes it's medical people are dying, police, dogs, even firemen. People are falling victim to the heat more and more and more. And generally, people under 40 are tolerating this solar radiation better than the people who are in their 50s and 60s and 70s. But we're starting to we have really opened up the conversation about heat, and using the term heat wave instead of drought, and it's the safest, most responsible way to present the weather, because more and more we're seeing mainstream reporting on just how deadly heat can be. And who sounded that trumpet? Well, you knew all about this years ago if you followed this channel. And never once did we ever blame carbon dioxide. That's a really bizarre thing. It seems to be bizarre. But here it says right there, extreme heat is one of the deadliest weather phenomenon in the world. Gee, where have you heard that before? There are direct health effects like heat stroke, which occurs when body temperatures reach to 104 degrees. And when you get there, sometimes drinking water doesn't help. It's not about hydration, although hydration helps. Hydration and temperature are two different things. You can boil water, remember. So, and here what we say, heat kills more people than all the natural disasters put together. We've been saying that for 3 years, and now guess what? We're seeing it in the mainstream, CNN that was. And the animals dying, the elk, the caribou, these huge land mammals, the moose, they're starting to figure it out, what's killing these animals. It's related to heat, and sometimes the heat does things to your water sources, your ponds and your rivers. It creates algae blooms that are toxic. And heat and the sun is most definitely hard on babies. And the moose calf deaths puzzle Swedish researchers, but they should come over here and talk to the United States about their moose deaths. And when you see a whole large population of animals die all around and at the same time, not one by one dropping off, you can assume it has to do with toxicity or heat. That's about it. Infection is transferred from one moose to another. They don't all die at the same time from an infection. However, when you're compromised and your immune system's beat down through dehydration, through radiation, you become sick upon your own pathogens. And a lot of antelope all over the world have died with blood infections. And we are assuming that the blood infection killed them, but it was a blood infection of a symptom of something much bigger. Mainstream is coming around, I mean, every year there's something that happens that vindicates everything that we've been telling you, and when we're vindicated in the face of such hatred and threats and retaliations and censorship, it's nice to see CNN telling you that heat kills more people than all other weather phenomena put together.